Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at a special situation that happens a lot. From here on out in math, you're going to see this come up all the time. So the sooner you start to recognize it, the easier things are going to get. Now what we have here is what's called a binomial. There's only two terms. And normally when you see this, you don't automatically think of doing backwards FOIL. But this is a specialized case. I have two perfect squares here. By now, the number 49 should ring a bell. You see that, you should automatically be thinking, oh, square roots, perfect squares, things like that. Okay. There's also one over here. 1x squared is x times itself, and that's a perfect square. Now, if this happens, all right, it always factors the same way. X plus 7, x minus 7. I just take the square root of each term. Now you might be asking yourself, well, what about that middle term? Okay, well, let's factor this out and see what happens. All right, let's FOIL this out and see where it gets us. So to double check this, I multiply. X times x is x squared. X times negative 7 is negative 7x. 7 times x is positive 7x. 7 times negative 7 is negative 49. And when you put your like terms together, you see that you get x squared plus 0x minus 49. And that's why we didn't have a middle term up here. We really did. It's just a 0, so we didn't write it. So when you see two perfect squares, and the key is they have to be subtracted. If that's addition, and this were a positive times a positive, there's no way I'd ever get my middle terms to cancel out and leave me with 0. So it only works when there's subtraction. But if I have two perfect squares subtracted, it's always going to work out the same. X plus 7, x minus 7. I take the square root of each term. Okay, now let's look at it when it just appears more difficult, even though it really isn't. Okay, the one over here on the right. All right, now, you should recognize, oh, 4x squared. That's a perfect square. 25. So is that. And I happen to have subtraction between them. So it's going to follow the same patterns we have on the left. Now, it's a little tougher to recognize at first, but 4x squared would come from 2x times 2x. Okay, 2x times itself gives me 4x squared. 25 comes from 5 times 5. Make one of them positive, one of them negative, and I'm done. That's now factored. So the biggest thing you can do to help yourself out is just get used to seeing these. When you recognize two perfect squares, and this is all about number sense. You have to memorize things, and you have to be good at just having a sense for it. Going, I know that number's special. That perfect square is not there on accident. It's there for a reason. When you see perfect squares, they're always there for a reason. Okay, so we need to start thinking about the math rather than relying on a calculator. You recognize these scenarios, you're going to fly through a lot of the math that's yet to come.